Friends, it was supposedly 19th century humorist Mark Twain who once said, "Everyone talks about the weather and nobody does anything about it." Oh, by the way, welcome to the Solid Signal podcast for the week of September 14th, 2015, which puts us perilously close to the first day of autumn, and that means game over for parts of the country that have basically had a good summer. I think that a lot of places have found that the summer season was more mild than was expected, but maybe not mild enough to forget some of the incredibly huge snowfalls that happened throughout the middle and northeastern parts of our country. And so as we come into fall, we're looking at a time where that could be a problem again. Not to mention our poor beleaguered West Coast could finally get some rain, but the expectation is that they will get too much rain. So much that there will be floods, there will be landslides, there will be all sorts of problems that come from dumping a bat load of rain, see what I did there, on an area that just hasn't had any appreciable rainfall in years. It may be true that nobody does anything about the weather because nobody can, but that doesn't mean there's nothing that you can do. And the one thing that I like to do, for one thing, is to enjoy watching the weather progress. I'm a bit of a weather geek myself, and that's why I want to talk to you this particular podcast about Solid Signal's selection of weather stations. Oh, I know what you're thinking. I have a smartphone. I don't need a weather station. Well, you could not be further from the truth with that statement, my friend. You need a weather station because the weather station tells you what's going on in your house. Not what's going on at some weather station up the road, a couple of miles away. Who knows? Could be thousands of feet higher or thousands of feet lower, and that makes a big difference. And so I would recommend you taking a look at Solid Signal's selection of weather stations. I know that our fine production team has been popping up a link to visit that if you're getting this via YouTube, and if not, go to Solid Signal and search for weather stations. We've got the basic ones, which simply give you time and temperature, and then we have a whole selection of them, and these are the ones that I really want you to look at that will actually measure wind and humidity and the kinds of things that you're going to need to know. After all, wind can be very, very dangerous. Wind can make things fly into your house and tear down your satellite dish and your antenna, and it's a whole bunch of problems just waiting to happen. And not to mention that, here's the big problem with just using your smartphone for everything, which is when you really need it. When disaster strikes, it may not be available. That cell tower could be blown over by wind too. And then where are you? You're stuck in the biggest catastrophe you've ever experienced, and you have no idea of how bad it is because you have no instrumented testing. You know, the kind of weather equipment that you'll need will probably mount on an antenna mast that you already have, and it's probably wireless, so that you don't really have to even run another wire into the house. And then you get a nice display which is always on, which gives you an idea of things like barometric pressure, which is an indication of how soon there could be precipitation if there is enough moisture in the air. Barometric pressure is like a crystal ball that tells you what could happen in the future. You also get things like relative humidity, which, while it doesn't exactly give you the kind of information you need to have at your fingertips, if you've got a crushing headache, there's something fairly comforting about looking at a relative humidity scale and say, yeah, well, I guess that makes sense. It is kind of humid, so I probably have a headache for that reason. Anyway, I'm just hoping that you'll take a look at our selection of weather stations over at Solid Signal. I'm not trying to give you a hard sell, even though it does kind of seem like it. And it's a 5-minute podcast. I try to get one idea out there, one thing to think about. And if you don't like this particular podcast and you think that I've run out of ideas or just some sort of middle-aged hack, then suggest a topic. Go to blog.solidsignal.com, click on that orange Suggest a Topic button, and tell me what you'd like me to talk about. I have nothing but respect for my fine, Solid Signal podcast followers, and I would love to hear more from you about what you would like me to say. Until then, have a great week.